Most beginners think realistic watercolor fur is all about painting tiny hairs, but that's not the secret at all. If the soft color foundation underneath is missing, your fur will end up looking stiff and even messy. So in this video, I will show you my favorite 3-step method for painting realistic animal fur using this adorable brown bunny as an example. As always, you will find the full recording of this tutorial in real time with black and white outlines and step-by-step photos on my Patreon. I painted several bunnies in my sketchbook first and then asked my subscribers to pick which one you wanted to see as a full tutorial. So here's the final version. Thank you everyone who voted and left your lovely comments. When you're ready, let's get started. In step 1, our goal is to create a very light underpainting. Think of it as a soft map of color that will sit underneath the fur. For now, we're only focusing on the warm, sunlit areas on top and the cooler shadows underneath. But before we move into the body, let's ease into the process by painting the eye first. I'm starting very lightly with a bit of phthalo blue and Daxazine purple, just enough to capture the middle values. Be sure to leave a tiny highlight untouched. That little reflection is so important because it instantly helps the eye look shiny and alive. Now let's move on to the rest of the bunny and begin building a gentle cloud of color underneath the future fur layers. So for the ear, I will pre-wet the area first and then drop in my colors. I'm using golden ochre in the warmer areas where the brown fur will eventually go, and a little purple near the tip. Of course, a touch of pink because bunny ears are so thin they're almost translucent, so that soft pink glow really helps them feel more believable. For the inside of the left ear, I will begin with pink right away, soften it with clear water, and then drop in a bit of golden ochre and purple using wet into wet technique. For the rest of the body, let's work in one pass. I will pre-wet the whole section, then add golden ochre anywhere the fur feels warm and touched by light, so mostly up on top. And after that, I will place some purple into the shadow areas, especially around the neck and the lower part of the body. You'll notice that I'm not using brown just yet. The main fur color comes later. This stage is called underpainting, and it makes a huge difference in the final result. These light colors will glow through the next watercolor layers and help us better describe the bunny's soft, three-dimensional form. I also like to add a little bit of blue anywhere the fur is cooler or catching less sunlight, also everywhere it is almost white, so especially around the leg and underneath the body. Blue is a beautiful way to suggest cool light on white or pale fur, and I'm using my favorite phthalo blue-green shade, a bright non-granulating blue that's always on my palette. At this point, it's really important to let everything dry before moving on to the head, especially before painting near the face. I'm going to work on the egg in the meantime, otherwise the edges of different segments we painted may start to bleed into each other. Watercolor really does teach patience. Sometimes half the process is painting and the other half is just waiting for things to dry, but I promise you, it's really worth it. Once those sections are dry, I can safely return to the face and add just a few soft touches of color, a little blue on the cheek for the shadow, and a bit of yellow ochre on the forehead where the light hits. And that's our first layer. Let it dry completely, and then we'll move on to step 2. This is the stage where we will finally begin adding the main color of the rabbit, again using a soft wet into wet technique first. I'm going to start again with the right ear, and this time we can introduce our main fur color. This is burnt sienna. Mine is Pigment Red 101 from Winsor & Newton. And it's one of those truly indispensable pigments if you enjoy painting animals. It's a warm, earthy reddish brown and slightly granulating, so you may notice a bit of natural texture as it dries. You can absolutely use a different brown if you prefer, just make sure to dilute it well. We're still working quite lightly here, about value 5, maximum 6, so there's plenty of room left for the final layer of fur texture. And let me know what brown you love to use for your animals. There's so many great ones like permanent brown from Daniel Smith, for example, or even burnt umber if you like more textured look. Please do share your favorites in the comments below. And inside the ear, I'm adding a little bit of quinacridone red and purple again, then moving on to the rest of the body after pre-wetting the whole area again with clean water. Notice that I'm not covering the entire bunny with brown. I'm only placing color in the areas that appear darker in the reference photo. That's really important because it helps us preserve the softness and lightness of the fur, including some of the areas that are really closer to white. As I move down into the darker shadow areas near the lower part of the body and the tail, I begin mixing in a little bit of dioxazine purple into my burnt sienna. This gives me a much more muted natural brown that feels less red and more shadowed. So dioxazine purple is one of my favorite accent colors. It pairs beautifully with earthy browns and adds that richness without making the mixture look flat. At this stage, I'm also doing another pass on the egg while I'm waiting for the body to dry, and I'm adding a soft wash of blue. Using my flat brush, I'm also lifting out the highlights. I may bring in a little bit of that same dioxazine purple here as well. I always like repeating a color in different parts of the painting. It creates a subtle sense of harmony and helps the whole composition feel more cohesive. For the eye, I'm going to use a touch of indigo to add some detail and deepen the contrast. And then we'll return to the head and continue building that second layer, again very, very lightly with just a little bit of burnt sienna. And this is where you can really start to see the magic of underpainting, because even though we're adding the brown now, those first soft layers of blue and gold and a little bit of purple are still shining through. They've created a beautiful foundation, and that foundation is exactly what will help the fur look rich, dimensional, and realistic once we add the final texture in the next step. Step 3, now we can finally start painting the fur details, and it's gonna look like this by the time we're done. This is the stage where everything begins to come together. In just a few minutes, we'll take the bunny from these soft, blurry layers to a much more realistic finish by adding delicate strands of fur on top of the colorful foundation we've already built. I'm starting once again at the top of the bunny using a small round brush. I believe this is size 0 from Isabay. You can go as small as 00 if you want, whatever feels more comfortable. With burnt sienna, I begin applying tiny short strokes. This is a classic wet on dry technique, so the paint is going on top of a completely dry surface, which gives us much more control. And here's the real key if you want the fur to look believable. Always move your brush in the direction of the fur. That makes all the difference. You can rotate your wrist or your brush or even your paper, whatever feels more comfortable, but try to make sure each stroke follows the natural growth pattern of the fur. I'm keeping my paper mostly still so it's easier for you to see the whole painting, but when you paint this yourself, feel free to turn the paper as much as you need. And as I move into the darker areas, notice that I start mixing in a little bit of purple into my burnt sienna again, and even some indigo. This gives me a nice range of deeper, cooler browns and adds beautiful variation to the rabbit's coat. Fur rarely looks like one flat color, so these small shifts in color temperature and value make it feel much more natural. Using that same indigo, I can also now add whiskers and even a few tiny eyelashes very lightly just with the tip of my brush. As I continue across the body, notice how diluted my paint mixture still is. So the more water you have in the mix, the more easily your brush will glide across the paper. And I'm not using a thick, creamy paint here. It's still more like tea consistency, just a little bit darker than the previous layers. Because watercolors are transparent, all of those first layers are still visible underneath. They're still adding to the overall color and value. The yellow ochre is still glowing through in the sunlit areas, creating warmth across the bunny's back, while the blue and purple underneath continue to suggest cool natural shadows. That layered effect is exactly what gives the fur depth and realism. You'll also notice that I'm not covering every single area with fur strokes. Around the eye, along the parts of the back and near the legs, I'm leaving lots of passages softer and more open because the first 2 layers already give those areas enough color and form. They don't need to be filled in completely. As the paint dries, you can step back, observe what's happening, and maybe even return to some of the darker areas to add more strokes if needed. This gradual approach lets you build the values slowly and deepen the shadows without losing that soft, airy watercolor feeling. I'm also adding another light wash of blue over the egg and using a bit of that same blue inside the bunny's eye. Of course, you can paint the egg any color you like. I just wanted to repeat some of the colors from the bunny's face, so the whole composition feels more harmonious and connected. And to make the scene feel even more festive and spring-like, I decided to add a few soft flowers in the background just to bring in a little extra Easter charm. When I painted this bunny for the first time in my sketchbook, I only included the egg, but as often happens when I repaint a subject for a larger tutorial for my Patreon supporters, I like to add a few extra touches, and this time I combined several references of apple blossoms in the background to create an even softer, more spring-like mood. I'm painting them quite loosely and without too much detail. Because I already applied masking fluid to preserve the white of the stamens, I'm now simply covering the petals with that same quinacridone red we used earlier on the bunny. I might add another pass of golden ochre all over the bunny's back just to enhance that highlight, and once the layer is dry, I'll remove the masking fluid and use a little bit of burnt sienna to define the stamens. For the final touch, I'm adding a bit of green. There's no need to introduce a brand new color here. I'm just mixing gold ochre and phthalo blue, two primary colors from the bunny's palette, to create a warm natural green for the leaves and maybe just a few loose blades of grass at the bottom. I hope seeing this process step by step broken down like this shows you that realistic fur does not have to feel intimidating. When you break it down into soft underpainting, a light middle layer, and then those final directional fur strokes, the process becomes much more manageable and really enjoyable too. So keep going, take your time with the layers, and don't be afraid to practice this technique more than once. The more animals you paint, the more natural it will start to feel. And if you're enjoying this kind of subject for your watercolors, make sure to keep watching. I also shared the brown horse tutorial last month to celebrate the year of the horse, and it's another wonderful way to practice painting with watercolors. As always, thank you for watching and painting with me. I will see you in the next video.